we need to talk about the lie. The lie that ruined a masterpiece. For 20 years, we looked at Digimon and we saw a copy. We saw a cheap, desperate version of Pokémon. We saw a loud, frantic commercial trying to sell plastic devices to 7-year-olds who couldn't afford a Game Boy. And for 20 years, we laughed at it. We called it Pokémon with guns. We called it a knockoff. But we were wrong. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a tragedy. Because while Ash Ketchum was resetting his age every single summer, trapped in a time loop of eternal childhood, Digimon was doing something else entirely. It was permanently killing off its heroes. It was tearing families apart with divorce and depression. It was exploring the concept of artificial intelligence through a robot that was so sad it just wanted to stop existing. Digimon wasn't a clone. It was a wolf in sheep's clothing. It was a dark cyberpunk survival horror story disguised as a Saturday morning cartoon. And that disguise, that is exactly what killed it. This is the story of how corporate greed destroyed the most important anime of our childhood, and why 20 years later, we finally owe it an apology. To understand why this show hit us so hard, you have to look at where it came from. Most cartoons in the 90s were safe. They were bright, they were round, they were designed to be hugged. Digimon was born in a much darker place. It didn't start as a cartoon. It started in 1997 at Bandai as the digital monster virtual pet. Think of it as a Tamagotchi, but for boys who want to break things. It was aggressive. Look at the designs. These monsters weren't cute animals. They were dinosaurs covered in scars. They were wolves wearing jeans and skulls. They were angels wrapped in chains. They looked like they walked out of a heavy metal music video. The director, Hiroyuki Kakudo, had a very specific vision for the anime. He didn't want to make a show about collecting pets. He wanted to make a survival story. He pitched a show about 7 kids trapped in a digital hell. No parents, no food, no way home. They had to sleep in trees. They had to find their own water. They had to fight for their lives every single day. It was gritty, it felt dangerous. The monsters weren't just tools to be used in a tournament, they were spirits, they were partners, and the danger was real. When the monsters fought, the ground shook, buildings collapsed. This wasn't a sport, it was a war. But when the show came to America, the executives didn't want a war. They wanted to sell toys. Fox Kids had a problem. They needed a hit, and they needed it fast. They had one goal: make this look exactly like Pokémon and make it happen yesterday. They treated the show like a mistake that needed to be corrected. First, they attacked the tone. In Japan, the show was quiet. It let the scary moments breathe. In America, the executives were terrified of silence. They thought we would get bored if nobody was talking for 5 seconds. So they forced the writers to fill every single second of silence with a joke. They tried to laugh away the fear. Then they came for the music. The original Japanese theme song, Butterfly by Koji Wada, is legendary. It wasn't a jingle. It was a beautiful rock ballad. It set the tone. It told the kids watching that this is going to be emotional, that this matters. But in America, we got the digi-rap. They were actively sabotaging their own product. You can change the music, you can rewrite the script, you can add the jokes, but you can't edit out the heart of the show. And the heart of Digimon was trauma. While Ash Ketchum's biggest problem was Team Rocket trying to steal Pikachu for the 100th time, the Digi-Destined were dealing with actual life-altering baggage. Look at Matt and TK. They are brothers. They clearly love each other, but they have different last names. Matt Ishida and TK Takaishi. And they live in different houses. Why? Because their parents are divorced. And the show didn't sugarcoat it. It showed the awkwardness, the pain of separation. The way Matt tried to act tough because he felt like he had to be the dad. The way TK tried to be independent because he didn't want to worry his mom. We watched them struggle to be a family again. That hit home for a lot of us. We were the latchkey generation. We knew what that felt like, and the show respected us enough to show it. In Pokémon, the battles are a sport. It's a tournament. You shake hands at the end, the grass gets scorched, but it grows back. In Digimon, the battles were a war. When the monsters fought, they didn't just knock each other out. They destroyed infrastructure. It felt less like a sports competition and more like a kaiju movie. The show wasn't just emotionally mature, it was technologically ahead of its time. Think about the year 1999. The internet was a slow, weird place where you checked your email and maybe went into a chat room. Digimon saw the future. It predicted the world we live in right now. It was the first kids show to understand that the internet wasn't just a tool. It was a second world. It introduced the concept of the avatar before most of us even knew the word. It showed us that in the future, our social lives would revolve around these digital versions of ourselves. It showed us that what we do online matters. There is a scene in the movie Our War Game that predicts modern streaming culture perfectly. Millions of kids around the world are watching a battle between the heroes and a virus named Diaboromon. They are watching it on their screens, sending emails in real time to cheer them on. That is Twitch. That is TikTok. That is a global live stream event, decades before the technology actually existed. And it didn't just show the fun parts, it showed the danger. The villain, Digimon, wasn't a dragon or a demon. He was a virus. He ate data, he hacked the Pentagon, he launched nuclear missiles. The show told us that if we connect everything to the internet, we risk losing everything. It was Black Mirror for 10-year-olds. It told us that the digital world and the real world were going to merge. And looking at our phones today, they were right. But the darkest prediction wasn't about the internet. It was about the one rule that Pokémon had spent years teaching us was sacred. The rule of permanence. In the world of Pokémon, nobody dies. They faint. If your Pikachu gets hit with a flamethrower, you don't bury him. You go to the Pokémon Center, you hear a happy little chime, and he's good as new. It is a world without consequence, a world where you can be reckless because nothing is ever lost. Digimon looked at that rule and shattered it. If you were a kid watching the show in 1999, you remember the moment it happened. You remember the rain. You remember the subway station. You remember Wizardmon. Wizardmon wasn't just a monster. He was a friend. He spent dozens of episodes helping the heroes, forming a bond with Gatomon and Kari. He jumped in front of a fatal attack to save Kari, and when he got hit, he didn't turn into data and reform. He died. He gave a final speech, thanked his friend for giving his life meaning, and then he dissolved into sparkles of light, and he was gone forever. We watched the characters cry over his empty hat, and it was deeply traumatic for a generation of kids who were told they were watching a toy commercial. It taught us a lesson that Pokémon refused to teach. Being a hero doesn't mean you survive. Sometimes the good guys die, and they kept doing it. Leomon became a tragic running gag for how often he sacrificed himself. And then there was Black War Greymon in Season 2. This is my favorite example of how ahead of its time this show was. Black War Greymon wasn't an evil, cackling villain who wanted to take over the world. He was an artificial intelligence created from 100 dark towers. He spent his entire story arc wandering the digital world. He was walking around asking questions like, why was I created? Do I have a heart? Does my life have meaning if I'm just a copy? He was clinically depressed. He was suicidal. This is the kind of stuff you expect from Blade Runner or Ghost in the Shell. And Fox Kids was airing this right before Power Rangers. Then Fox Kids made a decision that would ensure nobody would ever remember it that way. By the year 2000, Digimon was huge. The hype was real. And Fox Kids got greedy. They wanted a movie. They wanted a blockbuster to compete with Pokémon. But instead of doing it right, they cut corners. Japan had 3 short, beautiful movies directed by a genius named Mamoru Hosoda. Fox Kids took all 3 movies, chopped them up, and glued them together into one big mess. They ignored the pacing. They ignored the plot. They made up a fake story about a virus to try and connect scenes that had nothing to do with each other. It was a disaster. It was confusing. It felt cheap. And to make it worse, they forced us to watch an Angela Anaconda short before the movie started. 4 minutes of cutout characters making fun of the movie we paid to see. It was an insult. It killed the momentum. The movie bombed, the hype faded, the casual fans moved on. And for a long time, it felt like Digimon had lost. But looking back 20 years later, we have to ask ourselves, did the wrong side win? It felt like Digimon was gone. It felt like they gave up. But recently, something changed. The people in charge finally realized who was watching. They realized that the kids from 1999 aren't kids anymore. We grew up. So they stopped hiding the darkness, they started embracing it. Just look at the new game, Time Strangers. It isn't a colorful, happy adventure for toddlers. It feels dangerous, it feels real. It is the game we always wanted to play. Look at the new anime, Beat Break. It doesn't treat us like babies. It tells stories about real life, about letting go, about how hard it is to say goodbye to the things you love. Even the card game is huge again, not because it copies Pokémon, but because it's actually smart. After 20 years of pretending to be something else, Digimon finally stopped lying. They finally accepted that they are the darker, cooler choice, and the fans are finally coming back. But looking back 20 years later, I don't think they lost. The sales numbers don't matter. The box office doesn't matter. What matters is what the show left behind. Fox Kids wanted to sell us a plastic toy to distract us. Instead, they gave us a story that prepared us for the messy, painful reality of being alive. Other shows taught us how to play. Digimon taught us how to grow up. And the kids who watched it are the proof. We didn't turn out to be masters. We turned out to be survivors. We have scars. We have lost friends. We have had to rebuild ourselves, just like the Digidestined did. It turns out the show wasn't too dark for us. It was just waiting for us to catch up. It remains the best cyberpunk survival story ever told. If you were one of the kids who kept your Digivice while everyone else moved on, you are in the right place. We cover the real stories behind the hype every single week. So hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Were you a Digimon kid? And looking back, are you glad you were? I'll see you in the next one.